Okay, so I was cut off because I didn't have enough room on my phone. But so I said that religion hijacks Darwinistic tendencies. What do I mean by that? Okay, so what does religion do? Second quadrant oriented. Religion is second quadrant. Science first, religion second. Remember, science says that it can protect you. Scientists say, oh, we need to protect you from the asteroids. You know, if you just give us more money, we'll protect you from asteroids. We'll give you this new technology. You know, it's still concerned with preserving life too. It's more a preserving force. Religion is extremely concerned with conservation. Remember, third quadrant, art, more destructive. Fourth quadrant is death. But I was saying that religion uses their Darwinistic tendencies to manipulate. And so this is what I want to say about that. So we're saying that religion's all about, all these religions, what do they offer? Buddhism, you know, they pray to Buddha. They believe that there's a soul. They believe in ancestor worship, a lot of them. You know, all these religions. Don't say that there isn't any that doesn't. But they claim to offer one, immortality. You know, Hinduism through reincarnation. Some people say in the Quran that if you are a suicide bomber, then you automatically go to heaven, although that can be argued. One thing I want to say is that the way that the religion manifests is completely different always than what the original teachers of the religion taught. So don't equate the religion with the original teachers who actually were philosophers. The philosophies end up becoming religions because the religion ends up creating formulas based on these philosophers. If they existed, but let's just assume that they existed. Or, you know, we're talking about, you have to question, what exists other than the quadrant? Everything seems to just fit the form of the quadrant, so it doesn't matter. But the philosophers, the philosophies end up becoming religions. So the philosophers, well, anyways, I was talking about Darwinism. So what do you see in these religions? So let's look at Christianity. There's a lot of different places in Europe that have different ethnic groups. So we have the French, they adopt Catholicism. Then the British, Protestantism, and then later Anglican. Then the Spanish, Catholicism, and the Russians, the Russian Eastern Orthodox. You see these different ethnic groups adopting different religions. So you even see this in Germany. There's a lot of different ethnic groups in Germany. So South Germany adopts Catholicism, North adopts Protestantism, and what happens is you see a lot of ethnic tensions and a lot of ethnic hatred. You see a lot of wars between these different ethnic groups. And you always see within war, I don't know if I described this already, but the people in an army, they see each other as brothers, even if they're not brothers, even if they're not that genetically related. They will say the commanders try to manipulate them to feel that they are brothers. To use Darwinism. So the people, they eat together, they call each other brothers, they sleep together, they feel like a family. And then therefore they're able to fight outsiders, people who are trying to kill their brothers, and they're willing to die for their brothers because they're manipulating these this innate desire to preserve your genes. And like I said, you have genes that you want to preserve, but also you want to preserve your brother's genes. This is why somebody is more willing to die for his actual brother than for a stranger, because he knows that he shares a lot of genes with them. And some would say, no, that's just because you're more closely, you know your brother more and you like your brother more than a stranger. But they've done a lot of tests with animals and with humans to show that Darwinism is true. One example is there's these things where you'd be more likely to save, and I'm making up the numbers, like 4 of your cousins and 1 of your brother in a lot of cases. And they do the studies and they see, wait, there's a lot of different studies that have shown stuff like this, but they'll say, wait, okay, that's because your cousins should share 1/4 of your genes, and so all these cousins would have more genes than your brother, so therefore you'd be more likely to do this, and it all makes sense according to Darwinism and genetics. Your desire to preserve your genes. So what does religion say? Religion says that it can preserve your genes forever, either in an afterlife or through karmic reincarnation, different types of things. If you behave, if you act morally, this is the second quadrant, right? The second quadrant's obsessed with morality. But the fourth quadrant is more spontaneous, not so concerned with morality, and not so concerned with conserving. So what was I going to say, though? Oh, yeah, but then you see the French killing the British, or the British killing the French, and then they say, oh, yeah, we hate you guys because, and then they have an excuse, a justification. They say because they're Catholics, or because they're Protestants, and we have the true faith, and we hate them. But really, underlying this what they say their religious piety in killing people who are not the same religion as them, which is kind of ironic, but underlying this religiosity is also an ethnic hatred. So they'll say, oh yeah, we hate the Catholics, but really they're saying, well, we hate the Spanish because they're Catholics, but really they'll say, and also because they're dirty Spaniards, and really they're thinking this is a different ethnic group than us, they have different genes than us, we want to kill them. Also, the group in power manipulates the people to do this, in order, because if the people are fighting with each other, then the idea is, then it takes their minds off of real problems, real issues like their hunger, stuff like this. So this goes to what Marx was talking about how religion is an opiate of the masses. So here's the opiate, the second quadrant, behaving, belonging, in order to be comfortable. But remember, I said in order to flow, you got to be uncomfortable. People flow the most when they're in battle, when they're fighting. They can't think about themselves. They can't think about anything. They have to let go, and they get in the zone. They lose awareness of their body, of what they're doing. There's kind of a death. If you're comfortable sitting in your house with your fireplace, you can't. It's difficult to flow. But if you're in a situation where there's a lot of stimuli, life and death situations, or there's a lot of pressure, you're in a big time game, there's a lot of people watching, you can't think. You're unable to think. You gotta flow. I always like that the best, big time stuff where you can't think. Interestingly, Nietzsche was a big philosopher. What he did is, he definitely was not second quadrant oriented. He was an INTJ, which is the first quadrant of the fourth quadrant, though. But what he would do is he would poison himself, and he would purposely try to physically hurt himself in order to get himself flowing, in order to get himself thinking better. So he figured if he gets himself sick, he realized that when he was sick and stuff, this is when his thoughts were the best. It's because he was trying to break out of his physical. And I've experienced this too. When you're uncomfortable, when you're under an extraordinary amount of stress, this is when you're thinking the sharpest, stuff like this. Right after I quit basketball, I was thinking, man, I might want to go to the army or something, because it sucks not having a lot of stress. And Nietzsche was thinking the same thing. He wanted the stress. Van Gogh, he was under a lot of stress. You look at guys like Nelly, they were baseball players when they were writing their raps. Snoop Dogg was a basketball player. I don't think it's a coincidence. A lot of these guys who are good artists or good at whatever they do, guys like Nietzsche, guys like Marx. Marx was under a lot of pressure. He was starving. He was trying to support his family. He was under a ton of stress. A lot of these guys who did big time stuff were under a lot of stress. And I don't think that's a coincidence. Alright, so But yeah, so basically what I was saying is people they kill each other in the name of religion, but really a lot of underlying this is ethnic hatred. So you see the Arab, it's Muslims actually most Muslims are Indonesian, but you see what you do see happening is Arab people fighting Indian people, and they say, oh, it's because the Indian people are Hindus, and that's why we're killing them, and the Hindus are killing the Arabs are saying, oh, it's because they're Muslims, and then the Christians are killing these people, and or the white European Christians are killing Arabs in the Crusades, and they say, oh, it's because they're Muslims, and they say all this stuff. But underlying this, I think, is also ethnic tensions. But we see underlying everything is the form, the cross. So hopefully continue more in a minute.